When you still believe that circumstances determine destiny, you are stripping yourself of your greatest weapon. It's not your environment, not your starting point, and certainly not what others have or haven't done for you. It is the belief inside you that is the true beginning. No lasting change in your life can happen without first passing through the door of belief. Not blind belief and not feeble self-reassurance. I'm talking about another kind of belief. Sharp, non-negotiable, expecting no miracle. This belief needs no reason to exist because it is the reason everything else begins. You want the world to change? Don't wait for it. Start from the only place where you have absolute power, your own mind. This is not a fairy tale where the poor become rich through a random blessing. This is the truth, silently held by all great individuals. They are not biologically different from you. They differ in one thing. They believe they are the cause. They don't bow to circumstance. They look it straight in the eye and begin rebuilding from within. The outside world, what you often call reality, is merely a mirror. And a mirror never reflects what you haven't yet accepted within. You cannot expect success if your mind still doubts your worthiness. If you don't yet have what you want, don't be quick to ask why no one has helped you. Look inward with honesty. Do you truly believe you deserve it? Deep down, you might still be unsure. You might say, I want financial freedom, but then quietly think, am I really capable? In that very moment, you've already canceled out what you hoped for. The world doesn't respond to what you say out loud. It only listens to what you believe in your heart. You can work twice as hard as others, sweat, sacrifice, but if your mindset is unclear and your belief is fragile, your results will betray you. The subconscious doesn't respond to effort. It responds only to conviction. It gives back to you exactly what you perceive as undeniable truth. And if you see your limitations as real, if you believe you are always lacking, always behind, never good enough, then the subconscious will deliver exactly that to you. You were not born to be a victim. You were born to be a creator. But to do that, you must begin with something so simple that most people overlook it. The belief that you are the cause, not the result. Without this, every plan you write is a fantasy. With it, you will turn fantasy into blueprint. I've met countless talented people with brilliant ideas and burning desire, but they lacked one thing. They didn't believe they were worthy. And so they hesitated, they waited, they stopped. They lived a life of almost started, almost broke through, almost changed. But almost is never real. Transformation never happens from the outside. You can change jobs, move cities, get a new partner. But if you don't change the way you see yourself, you will keep meeting the same version of you in new settings with old problems. Real change begins the moment you accept that no one can save you except yourself. And the first thing you must rescue is the outdated belief system you're still living by. I'm not asking you to become someone naively believing in fantasy. I'm pointing you toward a verifiable truth. Every successful person you admire began with an invisible belief. They believed before there was evidence. They acted as if they had already succeeded before results ever appeared. They embedded commands into their subconscious and let it lead the way. If you're waiting for confidence before you start, you'll never start. Confidence is the result of belief, not its condition. You act first, and confidence comes after. You stand up while still trembling, and each step makes your legs stronger. Don't wait to feel ready. Begin with one decision. I believe I can. Not I'll try, not if circumstances allow, but I believe, and therefore I act. The world doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who dare to declare, I am worthy. That belief doesn't need to shout, doesn't need banners or explanations. It only needs to exist quietly, firmly, at the center of your mind, unshaken. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know one thing. If you're still breathing, you still have the right to choose how you believe about yourself. And from that place, everything else begins. No one succeeds without facing doubt, even doubt in themselves. But successful people don't let doubt sit in the driver's seat. They let it ride in the back and keep driving anyway. If until now you've lived life as someone trying to please circumstances, then starting today, try something different. Step into the role of the one designing them. Everything begins with something seemingly small, a new belief that you don't need the world's permission to succeed. You only need to believe you're strong enough, worthy enough, determined enough, and brave enough to begin exactly where you stand. And from there, the whole world will start responding to you, not as someone asking permission to live, but as someone commanding life to follow the direction they choose. And that you are absolutely capable of doing if you believe. If you haven't been able to master your circumstances, it's because you haven't yet mastered your mind. Everything you are living, feeling, and experiencing, from the opportunities you encounter to the limitations you endure, originates not from the outside world, but from what you've allowed your mind to believe is true. The mind is not just a container of information. It is the command center of your entire life. And if you let it operate on autopilot without direction or oversight, it will become a silent traitor, pulling you back into that familiar zone of safety where you have no power, no choices, and no real freedom. What matters is not what you think when you're fully conscious, but what rules over you when you're not. Your instant reactions, your habitual phrases, your recurring emotions, they're all governed by the deepest layer of your mind, the subconscious. And the subconscious does not analyze, judge, or choose. It simply obeys the commands you've repeated often enough with strong enough emotion. These might be empowering beliefs like, I am capable, but they might also be things you've never noticed. I always fail. I'm not good with numbers. I don't deserve to have money. The more often they are repeated, the more emotion they carry. The more the subconscious records them as immutable truth. And once that belief takes root, your life will revolve around it, whether you're aware of it or not. What most people don't realize is that you don't have to wait for your circumstances to change in order to live differently. You need to change how your mind operates first. The mind is the filter that shapes your perception of reality. If it is filled with negative programming, fear, anxiety, doubt, blame, then no matter what success you achieve, you will still feel powerless. But once you reclaim control, through intentional thinking, disciplined language, and powerful inner imagery, you'll realize that circumstances are not the obstacle. They are merely mirrors reflecting the degree to which you are mastering your own mind. Nothing changes if you keep thinking the same way. You can move to a new house, change careers, start a new relationship, but if your self-talk doesn't change, everything will fall back into the same old loop. That's why people grow older without ever truly growing up. They live the same year 10 times and call it a decade of life, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they never took control of their mind, the place where every opportunity is either born or killed before it begins. I'm not saying you can control everything that happens outside of you, but I am saying that you can absolutely control what happens inside. And from there, you will gradually begin to influence the world around you. This isn't empty philosophy. It's a principle that every successful person applies. Instead of reacting to their environment, they shape the environment to fit the scale of their thinking. They don't wait for opportunity to come. They become the kind of person opportunity cannot ignore. And that doesn't come from luck. It comes from inner mastery, something you too can begin to cultivate starting right now. The more important question is not what do I have to do to change my situation, but how must I think so that I'm no longer ruled by my situation. A person with clear, stable, and intentional thinking can turn adversity into an asset, but a person whose mind is governed by fear and doubt, place them in a world full of opportunities and they still won't see a way out. Your mind is not you, it is your tool. But if you don't use it intentionally, it will use you, and the result is a life adrift, directionless, constantly pulled by emotion and impulsive reactions. You want to build a new life? Start by building a new mind. And a new mind doesn't come from reading one book or listening to one motivational talk. It comes from disciplining your thoughts daily, filtering the information you absorb, filtering the words you speak, even filtering how you respond to the things you cannot control. Every sentence you repeat, every emotion you cultivate is a brick in the structure of your next reality. You cannot demand external freedom if you are still a slave to your internal stream of thought. Freedom does not begin with money, status, or recognition. It begins the moment you declare, I no longer allow my mind to speak things that destroy me. You no longer allow yourself to think in old patterns. You no longer let outdated emotions dictate your current actions. You intercept that chain of reaction, and from there you rewrite a new chain, intentional, aware, and full of power. Maybe you were taught that you can't control your thoughts, that they come and go like the wind, but that's only half the truth. Thoughts may come uninvited, but what you choose to keep, repeat, and nurture, that is what defines who you are. And you can absolutely train your mind to respond differently, to think differently, to choose differently. Just like the body needs training to become strong, the mind needs training to become the sharpest tool you own. Every outer change will become sustainable only if, and only if, you change the inner structure first. There is no shortcut. You don't need to control the world. You just need to control how you see the world, and from there, how you respond to it. When you change the lens of your mind, everything you see will take on new meaning. And from that new meaning, you will act differently. You will speak differently. You will become someone whom circumstances can no longer control. You will be the one adjusting the environment, not a victim of it. And that transformation begins from deep within, where you pause, observe, and decide, I am the one who controls my mind, and therefore, I control my life. Belief is not a fleeting emotion. It is not something that comes and goes with your mood. It is not a burst of excitement nor a flicker of hope that sparks in the night and vanishes by morning. Belief is a system, a mental structure governed by clear laws, operated by specific principles, and most importantly, it can be intentionally built. Don't confuse momentary excitement with true belief. Someone may pound their chest and declare, I believe, but the moment failure strikes, if they collapse, retreat, or dodge responsibility, what they called belief was nothing more than a passing emotion tinted by expectation. True belief doesn't behave that way. Real belief does not change with life's weather. It is the foundation, not a flag fluttering in the wind. I'm telling you this because I've witnessed countless people delude themselves, saying, if only I had more inspiration, I'd take action. But inspiration doesn't produce results. Only one thing does: deliberate repetition, combined with clear thinking, strong emotion, and consistent action. Belief doesn't arise on its own. It is trained. It is forged through time, through trials, through how you respond each time you face disappointment, delay, or doubt from the world. And here's the remarkable truth. You can consciously reprogram your belief if you know how to use the right tools. The subconscious is the place where every belief that governs your life is stored. And the subconscious does not respond to what you think just once. It does not hear you when you speak weakly without emotion. It only works when you say something over and over, charged with emotion and free of inner contradiction. You might say, I believe I will succeed, but if deep inside you still tremble at the thought of money, you're sending mixed signals. And the subconscious will respond to the stronger belief, not to the one you merely hoped for. Right thinking is not enough. You must combine it with deep emotion, with vivid imagery, with persistent repetition. Only then can a thought become real belief, and once it becomes belief, it will silently dictate everything. The decisions you make, the people you connect with, the opportunities you notice, and even how you respond to failure. Belief isn't just an idea, it's a living energy embedded in how you show up. Others may not hear you say, I believe, but they'll feel it in your eyes, your voice, your posture, and the consistency of your actions. Look closely at those who achieve the extraordinary. You'll see one common trait. They act as if what they want is inevitable. They don't sway under criticism. They don't stall when things are unclear. They don't need approval to keep going, because in their minds the result is already a fact. They're simply continuing the sequence of actions that bring that fact into public view. They don't act in hopes of achieving. They act because they've already achieved internally. And that makes all the difference. You can begin to train belief the way you train muscle. No inspiration needed, only discipline. Write down a declaration of who you are becoming and repeat it every morning and night. Don't read it like a chore. Read it with vivid images in your mind. Read it as if you're calling your future self into the present. Read it until your voice changes. Read it until your doubt disappears, and then act as if it were already true. No hesitation, no gesture that betrays the belief you just affirmed. That is how belief is built, not through philosophy, but through a daily spiritual habit. I know at times you'll feel conflicted. A voice inside will say, "But if I haven't seen anything yet, how can I believe?" And I say to you, this is exactly where human power is tested. Everyone believes when they have proof, but you are not rewarded for believing when it's obvious. You are rewarded for daring to believe before the world gives you permission. That is unconditional belief, and it's the only kind the universe responds to with full force. Once belief is established, it needs no support. It generates energy on its own. It lifts you when you fall. It changes how you speak, how you see life, how you choose people, how you live. And the world, quite naturally, begins to rearrange itself to match you, not the other way around. Never underestimate the power of what you repeat in your mind each day. Every time you say, "I can't," your subconscious registers it as a directive, and unless you counter it with a stronger belief, that command will run like a foundational code. Remember, the world does not respond to wishes. It responds to conviction. It doesn't care what you want if you're not living as though it's already yours, so starting today, choose one non-negotiable belief, just one, simple, clear, weighty. Then repeat it until it becomes the only voice in your head. Do this not to persuade the world, but to begin persuading yourself that you are worthy of what you've decided to believe. Belief is not an emotion, it is law. It operates like gravity. Whether you believe it or not, it is already at work. The question is, are you using it deliberately, or is it operating randomly against you? The truth is, you already believe something every day. The only question is, does what you believe lead you where you want to go? If not, it's time to replace it, and you absolutely have the power to do that, starting right now. You cannot demand clarity from life while carrying a vague map in your mind. Everything you are receiving, opportunities, relationships, results, emotions, is a precise reflection of the clarity in your daily thinking. Those who live with blurred thoughts create blurred outcomes. They want to change, but don't know where they're heading. They say they want success, but can't define what that actually means. They take action, but not for a specific purpose, only out of fear of standing still. And the result? They run, but arrive nowhere. They try hard, but see no progress. They do a lot, but none of it touches the deeper layers of who they are. I've seen intelligent people, full of ability, passion, and ambition, but they didn't fail due to lack of talent. They failed because their minds were in disarray. They thought a lot, but not clearly. They set goals, but vaguely. They said, "I want to change my life," yet couldn't articulate change what, into what shape, by when, through what method, and why it matters so deeply. In the realm of the subconscious, unclear commands are ignored. It's like telling a ship, just sail somewhere there's a shore. It will drift endlessly, never docking. The mind needs direction, and the subconscious needs specific instruction. Without it, you can't expect it to rally its resources for you. It does not respond to vague wishes. It only activates when given a clear image, repeated frequently, infused with consistent emotion and absolute belief. If you feed the subconscious mixed signals, today wanting wealth, tomorrow fearing failure, the day after craving comfort, how is it supposed to guide you? It will keep you exactly where you are, because that is its default response, safety. And safety in a world of fuzzy thinking is the killer of all breakthroughs. You want to stand out? Then do what most people don't. Think like someone who's already clear. That doesn't require degrees, luck, or approval. It only requires that you pause long enough to look directly at this question. What do I truly want? Specifically, measurably, within a time frame and backed by deep personal reasons. And if you can't yet answer that with a short, weighty sentence, then don't be too quick to blame life for not opening doors for you. Life only opens doors when you know exactly which door you're knocking on. I'm telling you this not from books, but from lived experience. Profound change does not begin with action, but with clarity in thought. When you know exactly what you want, why you want it, and are willing to say no to everything misaligned with that goal, you begin to create a magnetic pull, not a mystical force, but the gravity of someone living with intention. You become a magnet for the right opportunities, the right people, the right outcomes. And that doesn't happen by chance. It is the reward of sharp thinking. On the other hand, if you continue to live in ambiguity with no clear frame of reference, then everything will continue to pass through you without leaving a mark. You'll start something new with passion, then quit halfway. You'll change jobs but carry the same old mindset. You'll meet someone new and repeat the same patterns in the relationship. None of this is destiny. It all stems from internal vagueness left unresolved. Clarity is not pressure. Clarity is liberation. It helps you stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. It tells you what is a yes, what is a no. It turns every decision into a step toward your goal, instead of just reactions to temporary emotions. And here's the miracle. Clarity is not an inborn gift. It is a skill. It is trained by writing down goals, asking why repeatedly, eliminating noise, and committing to a single image. The more specific that image, the easier it becomes to issue commands to your subconscious. And when the subconscious receives a strong enough directive, it begins to coordinate your life toward that path with precision. If you don't choose to live clearly, the world will choose for you. It will stuff your mind with ads, biases, others' expectations, and societal standards. And you will end up living a life that isn't truly yours, waking up each morning not knowing why today matters. That is not freedom. That is drifting. And drifting over the years leads to exhaustion. People grow weary not from lack of effort, but from not knowing where their effort is leading them. So, if you've been working hard, living decently, learning diligently, and still feel like life isn't moving, the problem may not lie in your actions, but in your thought foundation. You need to pause. You need to rewrite. Not something vague, but precisely what you are committed to pursuing until the end, regardless of whether the world understands. That is where real power begins. Starting today, delete every vague phrase from your vocabulary. I want to do better. I'm trying. I hope to change. These lack the power to generate transformation. Replace them with clear declarations, time-bound, visually concrete, and fueled by essential reasons. Don't just say, I want to succeed. Say, I am building ABC career with XYZ revenue by time T because I want to create true freedom for my family. That is the language the subconscious listens to. That is how you send action signals into your internal operating system. Vague thinking equals vague results. That is not a warning, that is a law. And you now stand at a point of choice. Continue living by a blurred map or draw a new one, clear, steady, full of meaning. If you choose the latter, everything will begin to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because inside you, at last, there is a direction that cannot be mistaken. And that you are fully capable of creating starting right now. Acting as if you already have what you desire is not a psychological trick. It is not a tiring pretense to hide the truth. And it is certainly not blind belief based on illusion. Acting as if is a profound spiritual principle. used by those who have authored their own destinies. Those who wait for the perfect conditions before taking action will always remain in a reactive position. But those who decide from within and live as though what they desire is already an inevitable part of reality are the ones who shape the world. Not because they possess magic, but because they understand one truth. The subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined. It only responds to what you act upon with consistency and emotion. You may not yet have success, but if you walk as if you are creating it every day, your subconscious will begin to receive the signal and automatically seek out all conditions that match the image you are living. You may not yet have financial freedom, but if you manage your money like someone with a system, operate like a founder, speak like someone who takes full responsibility for the value they generate, then every small habit will gradually restructure itself to produce that exact result. There is nothing mystical about this. It's a law. Live in the state you want to achieve, and everything will begin to form around that state. If you wait to feel confident before you take action, you will wait forever. Emotion is the result, not the cause. It comes after behavior. When you act as if, you are sending a signal to your subconscious. This is the role I choose. This is the identity I affirm. This is the new definition of who I am. And the subconscious, like a silent yet powerful servant, won't resist. It will simply comply. It will support. It will adjust. It will create a chain of responses that turn the life you're living into the reality you will possess. I'm not telling you to put on a show for others. Acting as if is not about pretending. It's an internal transformation that quietly unfolds and then expresses itself in how you walk, how you speak, how you respond. Someone who acts as if they are worthy no longer wastes time proving, complaining, or seeking permission. They don't need the crowd's approval. They don't wait for consensus. They act like someone with inner authority, and that is the true beginning of all stability. Think about the people you admire. They don't need applause to rise. They don't need a badge to lead. They don't wait for enough degrees, experience, or advice. They step into their roles. They write the script first, then live as though it's already been signed off, not with arrogance, but with the humility of someone who knows reality does not come first. Identity does. And identity is what you choose, not what others grant you. Someone once asked me, but if I'm not successful yet, isn't acting as if I am a form of deception? The answer is, deception is pretending something you don't believe, but acting as if is living truthfully toward what you are becoming. If within you there is a clear image of your future self, and you choose to live in alignment with that image, then it's not pretending. It's the beginning of transformation, because no one can become what they refuse to act in accordance with. You cannot become free if every day you behave like a prisoner. You cannot become someone of value if every time you make a decision, you ask someone else to validate it for you. The human mind is programmed through habits, and habits begin with action, repeated conscious action. The more you act like the person you want to become, the more you overwrite the old image in your subconscious, like typing a new line of code over an old operating system. You don't need to erase the past. You just need to write the future strongly enough. And that only happens when you stop living like a victim, stop thinking like someone powerless, stop reacting as if you have no choice. You do have a choice. And that choice lies in how you act every day as if you are who? Acting as if doesn't require grand gestures. It shows up in the smallest things. How you answer the phone, how you arrive on time, how you take responsibility, how you speak of your goals with unwavering eyes. Every detail is a message your subconscious receives, stores, and acts upon. You cannot master something you're unwilling to live alongside, and you cannot expect to receive what you always hesitate to express. The universe doesn't respond to hesitation, it responds to conviction. If you live as if you've already succeeded, act as if you're worthy, speak as if you have the right to create value, and respond as if you are the one who leads, then you are planting a signal so strong into your life that nothing can ignore it. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're aligned in belief, emotion, and behavior. That is the formula for those who create reality. From today forward, don't wait to feel ready before you act. Act first, and the feeling will follow, because you are not the result of emotion. You are the result of behavior repeated with awareness. Choose your role. Step onto the stage of life as someone who is clear. I am the creator. No permission needed. No explanation required. Just live in alignment with the identity you have chosen to claim. And every step after that will be living proof that acting as if is not pretending. It is how those who master life command their world. It is a spiritual law, unchanging, unbiased, and excluding no one, including you. If you dare to live as if what you want is already yours, then soon it will be. No proof required. Just begin. No belief can exist in silence forever. Once you believe deeply enough and act consistently in alignment with that belief, the world is compelled to respond, not in some mystical, miraculous way, but through a practical, logical, and undeniable principle. Everything you truly believe, when reinforced by sustained, intentional action, must eventually manifest in your life as an inevitable outcome. This is not coincidence. It is a direct expression of a profound law within the human mind. Whatever is repeated in the subconscious, with enough emotion and determination, will seek material form in the physical world. Thinking is not just mental activity. It is the blueprint of reality. And if you don't consciously write that blueprint yourself, the world will impose one on you, copied from the fears, doubts, and failures of those who never dared to live according to what they believe. You don't need to announce to the world that you're changing. Just live differently, think differently, act differently, and gradually the world will have no choice but to treat you differently, because the world does not respond to what you deserve. It responds to what you demonstrate. Every belief you genuinely live with will begin to change how you speak, how you walk, how you respond, how you choose, how you keep your word. And each of those actions, no matter how small, is a signal being sent. Sent to yourself, sent to your subconscious, sent to those around you, sent to the opportunities waiting to be recognized. That's why if you say you believe you can succeed, but still act like someone waiting for a miracle, still think like someone just trying to survive, then that belief is not yet strong enough to take form. It is still a wish, not yet a command. What truly lives inside you will eventually reveal itself. You cannot pretend forever, and you don't need to. You simply need to nurture a belief strong enough, clear enough, and then let it guide every step you take, not rushed, not pressured, but unwavering. Every word you speak will begin to carry new weight. Every decision you make will begin to be filtered through a new standard. You'll no longer accept things that don't align with the person you're becoming. You'll no longer let time slip by without leaving a trace. You'll act like someone with direction, and that direction, if held firmly, will redraw the entire environment around you. I've witnessed people transform their entire lives, not through dramatic revolutions, but through the steady repetition of seemingly invisible choices. They woke up just 30 minutes earlier, but in those 30 minutes, they reviewed their goals with conviction. They went to work with a new attitude, not just to survive, but to create value. They began to speak like someone with standards, behave like someone already established, treat others like someone expanding influence, not begging for chances. And then, within a few short months, everything began to shift, quietly, unpretentiously, because you cannot live in alignment between thought and action without producing results. That alignment creates a stable spiritual vibration, and that vibration is the signal the world responds to. Others begin to believe in you, not because of your words, but because you live in integrity with your pursuit. Opportunities begin to appear, not because you're lucky, but because you've become the kind of person capable of recognizing and seizing them. Nothing within you remains invisible forever. Everything you believe and act upon, sooner or later, will step out from your inner world and manifest in the material one. If you believe in your self-worth, you will no longer tolerate relationships that make you feel small. If you believe you're creating a brilliant future, you will no longer waste time on old habits. If you believe you deserve prosperity, you will begin to manage your finances like an owner, not a victim. These changes don't come from fleeting motivation. They come from a decision. I will live in alignment with what I believe, even if no one else sees it yet. And from the moment you act that way, you enter a new vibrational space where everything you once thought was distant begins to become possible. No one can stop you from expressing your belief through action, but you can delay it endlessly if you keep waiting for the feeling, the certainty, the approval. The truth is, no one can see what you believe until you act on it consistently. You don't need to explain, you only need to live it, because living it is the most powerful declaration a person can send into this world. When your words and actions align, when your beliefs and habits are in sync, you become an undeniable force. You no longer need to beg for attention. You become someone who is recognized because the energy you carry speaks everything that needs to be said. So if you're still wondering why things haven't shifted yet, pause and be honest with yourself. Does the way you're acting truly match what you say you believe? You cannot create new results while living in old ways. You cannot expect life to treat you as someone of value if every action you take still diminishes your own worth. Let everything you believe become your way of life. Let every step you take affirm the person you are building, and then you'll no longer need to ask when. Because you'll begin to see, bit by bit, layer by layer, emerging before your eyes as the inevitable result of a belief continuously expressed through conscious action. This is not magic. It is life's deepest fairness. Everything you believe and act upon must manifest outwardly, both the good and the destructive. And once you understand that, you will no longer act from emotion. You will live like a sculptor, shaping your destiny. Thought by thought, gesture by gesture, choice by choice, until the masterpiece appears, complete and undeniable. And when it does, you will know everything began within you, and now the world is simply catching up to the person you've always chosen to become. Nothing changes at the root if you don't have a primary goal to lead the way. A mind without a goal is a powerful machine running freely without direction. It thinks a lot, feels deeply, reacts constantly, but moves nowhere. Because thinking, no matter how sharp, if not routed by a clear destination, will eventually return to the same place. Doubt, delay, the repetition of meaningless loops. A primary goal is not just something you want. It is the foundation, the spine of all mental structure. It is the anchor that keeps you from being swept away by emotional winds, thrown off course by public opinion, or lost in the haze of temporary inspiration that blurs your action map. I've met many people full of energy, full of desire, even with outstanding talent, but they failed not from lack of ability, but from lack of a center. They spread themselves too thin, changed direction too often, and lacked patience too consistently. A new idea every month, a new plan every week, a new emotion every day. No roots dug deep into reality, no system reinforced through repetition. And so, everything dissolved into the air before it could take shape. You cannot build a structure of thought without a foundation called primary goal. Our primary goal is not something you think about when you have time. It is something you face every morning, something you must speak aloud with emotion, something you must rewrite many times until it's no longer just words, but a part of your spiritual body. Only when it becomes a powerful, repetitive system in the subconscious can it harness all your energy, habits, and choices toward a single axis. And from that axis, you begin to restructure everything: time, relationships, behavior, emotions, language, reflexes. Everything outdated and unhelpful falls away. Everything necessary is strengthened. That is how a person regenerates their inner power, not by changing the surface, but by restructuring the inner goal. Someone with a primary goal may not always know the exact way forward, but they never forget where they're going. They don't waste time on vague matters. They don't squander energy on things that don't align with the person they are building. They say yes or no decisively, not because they're cold, but because they're clear. And you, if you don't yet know your primary goal, are living in a state vulnerable to distraction. Every phone call, every opinion, every new trend can pull you off course. And if you're off course long enough, you forget what you once wanted. I'm not saying you need to know every step, but you must know what is worth the full devotion of your mind, not 3 or 5 goals, just one only, clear enough, strong enough, deeply connected to your core values. And from that goal, you can reprogram your entire mental operating system. You will no longer process information the same way. You will no longer make decisions as before. You will no longer react emotionally. You begin to think like someone on a defined journey. You become someone who is moving, not drifting. The primary goal is not a wish. It is a declaration, and as a declaration, it must take a clear form. Write it down, post it, read it aloud, emphasize it, feel it, make it concrete with numbers, timelines, and personal reasons. Don't let it remain a fuzzy concept in your mind. Don't let it be something you think about only when you have time. Don't wait until you're ready. No one is ever truly ready for major change. People simply decide, and from that decision, everything else is summoned. When you don't have a strong enough goal, you're easily pulled into unnecessary activity just to feel busy. But busyness does not measure progress. Only direction shows whether you're moving closer to your goal. Each day, you should have one filter question. Is what I'm doing serving my primary goal? If not, you're spending energy on something that will lead you nowhere. And if every day your answer is no to that question, then even if you work 14 hours a day, you're still drifting. The primary goal is also a powerful filter. It helps you decide who should enter your life and who should leave. It helps you retain what's essential and release what's excess. It helps you focus on quality over quantity. Because someone with a clear goal doesn't need to do everything, they just need to do the right thing. And doing the right thing long enough, deeply enough, will create unstoppable transformation. So if you're ready for real change, you don't need to start with grand steps. Just write down your primary goal clearly, as if you're sending a contract to your subconscious. Then from tomorrow, live as though you've signed that contract. Speak as someone executing it. Structure your day as someone drawing closer to it. Say no to what doesn't belong on that path. Be willing to pay the price to keep that direction intact. And when you do that consistently, you are no longer merely someone living. You are someone reprogramming your entire life. Because reprogramming the mind doesn't come from momentary positive words. It comes from choosing one goal and committing to never act outside of it. Every day, every decision, every thought aligned with that axis. And that axis is the root every new identity needs to grow solidly. Without it, all efforts are random. With it, you begin to move like someone holding destiny in their hands, not waiting, not doubting, not swayed, just focused, just advancing, and stopping only when what you committed to has become undeniable reality. The subconscious does not think. It does not analyze right or wrong, weigh pros and cons, or argue with you. It doesn't understand jokes. It doesn't grasp sarcasm. It doesn't know whether you're just kidding or issuing a command to your life. The subconscious only listens and executes. It functions like a loyal machine, one that does not make choices, and the thing that guides it more than anything else is the language you use every day. The words, whether spoken out loud or kept silently in your mind, are the steering wheel that directs this machine. They seem small, harmless even, but once repeated enough, with real emotion, those words become commands that the subconscious follows with precision, coldness, and without mercy. You can't say, "I was just joking," and expect your subconscious to forgive the negative phrase you've repeated over and over, because it doesn't have the function to categorize something as a joke or serious. Every time you say, "I'm so stupid, I'll definitely fail, I'll never goes my way," or "I'm just not as good as others," you're programming your brain to follow a new path. Wrong direction, but